Okay, move out.
Hello, I'm Lieutenant Jim Joyella, your host on this issue of Your Army Reports. Your Army is making news all over the world, and to bring you some of those stories firsthand, cameramen are at work in many parts of the globe. Today's program takes us from the depths of the Mississippi River to the mountain peaks of Alaska, from a military parade in Seoul, Korea, to combat action in Vietnam. Our program begins in the United States with a story of the raising of a potentially dangerous sunken barge by Army engineers. At White Sands Proving Ground, we are introduced to the latest addition to the U.S. Army missile arsenal. In Alaska, we visit soldiers undergoing sky-high mountaineer training. Next, on to Asia, and the story of the embarkation of Republic of Korea soldiers for service in Vietnam. Later, we follow some of these lost troops during an actual mission. We also meet Australian soldiers serving with the Allies in the combat zone. And finally, a ride on a river patrol boat and an account of a typical patrol action, including the rescue of a downed helicopter. All in today's program of Your Army Reports.
Some time ago, Hurricane Betsy swept inland over southern Louisiana and sank a barge loaded with liquid chlorine in the Mississippi River near Baton Rouge. Army engineers working with civilian contractors were immediately assigned to remove a dangerous threat to the safety of the people living in the area. The engineers led the task force which marked the exact spot where the barge had capsized. The divers found the chlorine tanks 200 feet from the bank in 60 feet of water. Next, the engineers prepared a detailed survey of the sunken barge and the surrounding river bottom in order to determine the safest method of salvage. Civilian contractors, supervised and assisted by the Corps of Engineers, used their skill and ingenuity to devise a framework for the hazardous operation. A barge mounting two stiff-leg derricks with a combined lifting capacity of 800 tons was brought into action. The total submerged weight of the barge, tanks, and cargo was 389 tons. Aerial patrols kept a strict surveillance of the area, and emergency ventilation equipment was close by in case dangerous fumes were detected. Experts in handling chlorine worked closely with the engineers throughout the operation to ensure maximum safety. As the cranes lifted the submerged load, sensitive test equipment recorded any air contamination. When the barge was raised sufficiently, these experts inspected the condition of the chlorine tanks and piping and found them undamaged. As a further precaution, the barge and tanks were hosed down for thorough decontamination. A potential disaster was averted, a successful demonstration of effective civilian and military teamwork in an emergency. One of the Army's new missile systems, the Lance, is undergoing extensive development tests at the White Sands Proving Ground in New Mexico. This highly mobile missile system, which can go almost anywhere, is being developed to replace the Army's Honest John and possibly the Little John. The Lance is designed to complement Division Tube artillery, extending the division commander's capability for both nuclear and non-nuclear supporting fire. The missile launcher can be self-propelled by mounting on a tracked vehicle. The Lance utilizes a special control system for pinpoint accuracy. It is the first Army missile designed to use prepackaged, storable liquid propellants. The Lance has been developed for the Army Missile Command by civilian contractors.
Within minutes, the crew of specialists make the sightings,
Lay the necessary cables and prepare for firing. The Lance flexes its firepower muscles at the White Sands Missile Desert Range as the Army welcomes this addition to its ever-growing arsenal of aggression deterrence. From a position of safety, the unit commander makes a final check to ensure all is ready.
then gives the order to fire.
Test firing such as this proves that the Lance's future is bright. Army troops training in Alaska are learning to be at home in the mountainous terrain.
With neighboring peaks towering thousands of feet above sea level, these soldiers are gaining an honest respect for danger
And the skill and competence of expert mountaineers.
This United States Army Mountain and Glacier Training Center
Is located near Fort Richardson in a jagged mountain range.
The site of the 172nd Infantry Brigade Base Camp overlooks a massive rock-jawed glacier.
From here, men of Company C, 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry of the 172nd Infantry Brigade
Are broadening the scope of their combat capabilities through training in mountaineering skills.
Each day, the troops are learning by doing.
Beneath breathtaking peaks, on barren rock faces and ice-bound slopes, they put their lessons into practice the hard way.
The craft of mountaineering requires more than brute strength and sheer courage.
There are skills to be learned that call for educated fingers and pioneering techniques.
The training ranges from demonstrations of know-how and equipment to do-it-yourself mountain goat exercises.
It is rugged and demanding training requiring steely nerves and steady footing.
Here, the buddy system is a necessity, for the occupational hazards are awesome. After 2 weeks of such training, the troops rotate with others of the command.
However, in mountaineering, you never stop learning and practicing. So these men will soon return for further development of their mountaineering skills.
Skills that enable the Army's fighting man to soldier effectively on every type of terrain.
Troops of many nations are serving the cause of freedom half a world away. Two such groups come from the Republic of Korea and Australia. These soldiers can already point with pride to their contributions toward victory in Vietnam.
A festive Armed Forces Day parade in Seoul celebrates the 17th anniversary of the Republic of Korea. Spectators line the route of march as representatives of the armed forces pass in review. Later, elements of the famed Tiger Division and 1st Marine Brigade receive a colorful welcome at Busan Harbor, where they will embark on United States Navy ships to South Vietnam. These men are volunteers who will represent their proud country in the fight for freedom. Highly trained and combat ready, the soldiers and Marines pack the railing of the transport ships as well-wishers cheer. The Vietnam-bound troops shout their farewells as the band plays. Meanwhile, crowds pack Seoul City Airport to give the grandest send-off in history to elements of the division who are leaving for Vietnam by air. The prayers and hopes of the citizens of this gallant country go with their men as they leave to serve the cause of freedom in another land. In all, 15,000 Republic of Korea troops have volunteered for duty in Vietnam, including 2 regiments from the Tiger Division. Once in Vietnam, the Tigers are quick to show their claws as they stalk an elusive enemy. Forward observation verifies an enemy-held strong point, which is soon brought under fire. Then the troops move out through difficult terrain, always alert for signs or sounds of the Viet Cong. They move cautiously forward, one squad at a time. The men of the Rock Tiger Division demonstrate the results of intensive combat training, as together with the United States and other Allied troops, they push forward toward victory in the Vietnam fight. The 1st Battalion Royal Australian Regiment arrives by a flat top in Saigon Bay. Completely equipped, this volunteer unit is moved to South Vietnam for duty with the Allied forces. The troops debark the carrier down gangplanks, carrying their personal gear into amphibious craft which swiftly transfer the men to the waiting LST. Then, they are speeded to the beaches. Part of the 1st Battalion's mission is the defense of strategic airfields. However, the Royal Australian Regiment is a first-class fighting outfit, well able to handle any assignment given them. At their base camp, the airfield of Benoit, the Aussies join American soldiers in the internationally popular Chow Time. Afterwards, the men get rapidly to work setting up base communications. Then some routine items can be taken care of. And before combat, another type of shooting. The Aussies are well trained in the art of camouflage, and the men from down under know how to handle the tools of modern warfare. Practice makes perfect. That's what the sergeant said, and the 1st Battalion proves the point. First on the firing range. And later on, a patrol around their defense perimeter, facing a real but well-hidden enemy. The Royal Australian Regiment is in Vietnam, contributing its strength to the defense of the free world.
The successful waging of the war in Vietnam takes many forms. Sometimes very little happens that would make a military communique dramatic. But dramatic or not, it is a hard, taxing job for the soldiers. Whether serving on a river patrol boat, an infantry search and destroy operation, or involved in a helicopter rescue mission.
With good roads at a premium in Vietnam, rivers serve as vital arteries of transport and commerce. In order to both control and use these waterways, daily boat patrols are a usual feature of Vietnamese river traffic. Vietnamese naval personnel, working with the guidance of their American naval military advisors, are keeping traffic moving and are constantly on the alert for the Viet Cong. One such unit is the 22nd River Assault Group, which has a number of armed vessels patrolling the many miles of widely varying river areas. They keep in close touch with the Vietnamese military units operating on shore. In this case, a request has been received to transport ground troops back to their base after completed mission. Viet Cong presence is verified on the opposite bank of the river, so the Vietnamese commander calls for covering fire during the troop withdrawal operation. The far shore is raked by machine guns and mortar barrage as protection for the men about to come aboard. Called the Monitor after the famous United States Civil War ship, this Vietnamese naval craft proves its worth. Almost hidden by the heavy jungle foliage, the troops nimbly come aboard the waiting patrol boats. The completion of another successful operation. The ground forces are returned safely to their base, courtesy of the 22nd River Assault Group of the Vietnamese Navy. Elsewhere in Vietnam, at Son Sanut Air Base, men of the 88th Military Police Company, aptly called sentry dog detachments, handle leashes as well as rifles. Since its arrival in August of 1965, the unit has provided security for radar installations, ammunition sites, communication centers, and other vulnerable areas about the vast airbase. The actual and psychological advantage of patrolling with dogs has already proved of great value in opposing Viet Cong infiltration and attack. Each of the four-legged guards is a one-man dog, as in the case of Smokey, assigned to PFC William R. Barnett of Crown Point, Indiana. For 8 months, PFC Barnett has been Smokey's handler, and their relationship is a close one. Lessons in obedience are of prime importance in a place where friend and foe are difficult to determine. A sentry dog has learned to respond immediately to voice commands and gestures of his handler. Well-padded suits are a necessity for the victim of the agitation exercise because, though the situation is simulated, Smokey's teeth are real. After a rest period toward late afternoon, another training session ends. To begin their night's vigil, the teams are transported to the guard post to ensure the sound sleep of others and the security of their assigned area. A combat cameraman sent this film coverage of typical Vietnam patrol actions of an element of the 1st Infantry Division. Accompanying the film was his description of the action as he witnessed and photographed it.
The company is participating in a regimental-size operation in one of the provinces. Periodically, during the operation, members of the Big Red Zone receive sniper fire from the Viet Cong and return the fire. The troops move into position to push out snipers. By the time I reach the area, most of the shooting is over because the Viet Cong have been driven from their positions and have melted into the surrounding jungle. A few days later, elements of this company are engaged in a road clearing project where the Viet Cong have ambushed an American convoy the night before. The purpose of the sweep is to clear the road and surrounding villages of any enemies still in the area. However, this time they encounter no resistance. They end up patrolling for a while. The men return to a battalion-designated area before continuing their search and destroy operation in a different part of the province.
During combat by units of the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile, a troop supply helicopter of the UH-1D class is disabled. A radio message for assistance is relayed. While the men secure their position, establishing perimeter defenses against attack, the helicopter crew works rapidly to prepare their downed craft for air rescue. Communications are established with a recovery mission already airborne and speeding to remove the downed bird. The helicopter is to be airlifted by the all-purpose CH-47 or Chinook. The Huey's crew directs the Chinook pilot into position as the supporting sling is hooked up and the rescuer and the rescued are swiftly on their way to the base where the UH-1D will be repaired to fly again the Vietnam skies. A number of rescue craft participate so that everything moves. The downed helicopter back for repairs, and troops continuing their assigned mission. Men and machines coordinate to salvage valuable aircraft. Once more, the Army's new mobility proves itself on the battleground.